I'd love to welcome you to Master Your Life Beyond the Boardroom podcast, a place for ambitious individuals to capture proud moments on who they've become. It's a discussion that finds insights, the highs and the lows on where they have been at stages in their life. A safe space to share and openly talk about their journey. So if you're on a journey yourself and you're wanting to stretch, go further and farther than you've ever thought was possible, mastering your life is something that will connect you with your identity. I'm excited to be welcoming some very interesting guests to add value to your journey. For more information and to stay in the loop on what Master Your Life is all about and gain more value, head over to www.master-your-life.co.uk. Subscribe to my newsletter and stay in the loop. Let's get to it. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Master Your Life Beyond the Boardroom. I am your host, Luke Beastall, and I say it all the time. You know this, you know the words, you're probably going to even know what I'm about to say, but I have a fantastic guest. See, I used a different word there on the show today, and we actually got introduced to each other through a mutual connection. And I always say this, the power of community, the people within your network, and actually that you can introduce people that you feel would really kind of bounce off each other. And when I first got introduced to Colin through Steve, who has actually been on one of the previous episodes, so I'll just leave that one there, Steve Judge. We had a chat and he worked with Steve Judge through his actual Paralympic champion gold journey. So Colin is a podiatrist. He's got 2 clinics and he's also a biomechanics specialist. I'm not going to take away from letting him share what he does because he's got an extensive service that actually really works with the human mind and body, which I'm very fascinated about. And somebody who's an avid runner, I think this is going to be a really exciting episode. But we are doing it a little bit differently. And Colin kind of said before the show that he was slightly nervous, slightly skeptic in a way, because he's been so used to sharing his profession. But this time we're kind of going into Colin's story. We're unpacking what got him into business. He didn't actually start business at a young age. You know, he's a little bit later on in life. But he's going to really share that. And I just feel that this episode today is not just going to be value, but it's going to be impactful and also inspirational to anybody that, you know, is thinking about starting a business, or at least in a place where they go, I think it's a bit too late for me to start a business. Well, Colin has already shown that that is never going to be the case. So, look, I'm going to introduce you to the podcast, Colin, because I can talk forever. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting little chat, I think.
Definitely. I think as well, I mean, and I know you had said as well before the show, and this is just me sharing you guys a little bit of an insight. It was obviously you've had chats with other people about it, and you got loads to share, So I think the first place that we could really hit this off is just a little bit about, you know, what it is that you do day to day with your life and business.
Well, currently, as you said, I'm a podiatrist by trade. That's what my degree says, which was I qualified in 1999 and worked a little bit in the NHS for 4 years down in London, and then moved up into Chesterfield, working in a private clinic, where I was just working there to start with. And alongside then a multidisciplinary team, we had surgeons in, sort of chiropractors, physio, osteopaths, worked alongside sports massage therapists. A whole lot, really. So that was in Chesterfield to start with. And then I suppose when I got into my own sort of practice then, which was just pre-COVID, when I sort of branched out on my own and brought my first practice, which was the one in Hathersage, which is just me in there, brought it from another podiatrist who'd been working there. And then we had the opportunity as well to buy the existing clinic that was in Chesterfield, which was about sort of 2012, around about that sort of time. So 3 of us went into business partnership then. But that sort of folded down in a COVID time again when we came out of that. And that's again when I opened up the new one in Chesterfield. So sort of brought the remnants of the old business and set up then totally on my own. So it wasn't sort of totally new about sort of a few years ago, but doing it on my own, basically with my own team, was a new thing in over the last sort of four or 5 years, really. I suppose the main area that I work in now, or the bit that I'm really sort of specialist in, is sort of running assessment or movement assessment. So the biomechanics side of things. I think when people, you sort of say you're a podiatrist, and everyone always thinks, right, it's either toenails and hard skin, or sort of insoles, or a bit of running, or or is that children is a common one as well, which is you do with children, but not from not as a pediatrician, but from a podiatry point of view. So I think a lot of people don't really fully understand. A lot of people know the term sort of chiropodist, and there's a question we get asked quite a lot: what's the difference between a chiropodist and a podiatrist? And the chiropody side of things, which we do as well to a certain extent, is all sort of the nails and the hard skin. So we do that in the clinics, but say my main area is looking at how people move. So we're looking generally a lot of sports injuries, but also not necessarily through spine, but just sort of foot pain. So it's how the feet interact with the ground and how that impacts on the rest of the body. I suppose there's a fairly simple way of sort of saying it. And then the bit that I sort of really enjoyed, the detective work, is trying to work out how that person is moving, how that relates to the injury. So if they've got, say, common thing, plantar fasciitis, just that pain underneath the foot in the heel, we've got to work out why that's occurring. Because a lot of people are into just treating the symptoms. There's plenty of that sort of advice out there. But actually, I try and really delve down into the root of the problem. So actually, what's causing it? What part of the way that they're walking or running is actually leading to the problem? And that's the bit that we try and then treat. So really common with people that have recurring injuries that aren't healing up. And that's sort of the fascinating bit, really. Because, as we were just saying earlier on, you can have the same presentation, the same problem, and looking like the same different feet. Some people get better, some people don't. It's often then in, I suppose, that mindset as well that people are in. So I think as your sort of work progresses, you sort of move from the purely, right, this is what I'm taught at college, this is how feet work, into then finding different avenues, different ways of sort of looking and dealing with people. So they might come in, I might be, we're glossing ahead quite quickly here, but I might be talking about the way they're breathing, the way they're sitting, how they work, even how they're driving their car. So we've got to look at the bigger picture as well. So that's the bit that really interests me at the moment. Yeah, like you said, that holistic view of people.
Yeah, I mean, just actually sharing my views on what you've done there, Colin, that's actually really insightful, but also great the way that you work with people. You can genuinely tell from how you put that together that you do care about the individuals that you work with. It's not just what you said traditionally, podiatrist, here's a masculine symptom, here's just something to kind of supplement, crack on, do your thing. It's you're working with the person, and I can already tell that this is not just a 1 hour thing. It's not just a 30-minute or 15-minute quick scribble off your crack. It's taking time. It's really getting deep on the stuff. And I think for you've been in this field, should we say, for over 25 years, right?
Right.
So
yeah.
I'd love to know, because you've obviously got skin in the game, as they like to say in business, how did you develop this mindset where you wanted to do things differently? Like, you've obviously got your unique way of doing things.
I think it was the big thing I was thinking that a little bit over this week, really, is it's that curiosity, I think. You sort of just don't settle. And there's a lot of, I suppose, discussion within, but actually the way we're taught is very different to the way that I'm working now. And some people will still be doing the same thing as you taught. And a lot of the, I suppose, students coming out of college have that really basic, I suppose. But then you sort of see things and it's like, well, that doesn't seem to quite make sense. That doesn't work. And you just start questioning and looking around. I suppose from a business point of view, it works as well as sitting that patient in front of you. If something doesn't sort of quite make sense, you either just accept it or you think, actually, well, what does that mean? Where do we go with that? Let's have a look around that process. And I suppose the easier was working in multidisciplinary clinics. So you've got a chiropractor or an osteopath there. So you say, well, how would you approach this? And we're sort of cross-referring over. And again, it just leads you down that route. And it's like, actually, I don't want to send my patients to you. Why can't I do this? So you start just widening your scope of practice a little bit. So then we start doing a little bit more manual therapy, or you look at the exercise, or the physio's doing, well, I could do that as well. So you just start widening, I think, your scope of practice. You get comfortable in what you're doing. You've got to let that consolidate slightly. You sort of learn that. And then you go, okay, well, what's the next stage? So there's always something new to learn. And that's why people come using, well, what treatment it could be. It could be a whole variety of different things that we now use. And hopefully there's still more out there to learn as well. So I think this whole thing about having your own business and being your own boss is like, if there's something that interests me, I can go down that route. And we often talk about with sort of colleagues who have their own business, like, could I go and work for someone else again? It's like, no, absolutely not. It's, apart from, the frustrations that you get from having your own business, you think, oh, it'd be so easy to go and work for somebody, just get a salary, not worry about it, 9 till 5, and go home at weekends and not be sitting there. But yeah, I think I'd lost a week, to be honest, because I think some people, we've just got that curiosity. You just want to learn, you just want to look, and you want to follow that train. It might not lead anywhere, but at least then you've explored it, and then you sort of come back in and take a little bit of that information, take what you need, and it might lead you down another path as well. You just got to be curious. You just got to be open to new things, talk to people, find out what they do, see what works, see what doesn't work. Basically, just follow your nose almost, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I really like that. Just what you shared, Colin, because it's like it's similar even from when I did a lot of the fitness side of things. Is a lot of people would start from, or at least, again, like you say, be curious when it's like, oh, if they can do it, so can I. It's that sense of optimism of, maybe if I give it a go, and then once they do it, it's like, oh, okay, I can do this. And then the next, and I guess it really, that can just be the key start. That it doesn't have to be like everything's, has to be sorted out. Obviously, you've worked with people, you've been in that, I'm not saying fixed mindset, but it was, maybe there's certain ways of doing things, and that didn't necessarily, over a period of time, maybe when you started it worked, but then after a period you started thinking, oh, there's definitely different ways we could do these things. I'm sure there's a different way, and that has then obviously allowed you to become, this business owner that you are today.
Yeah, and I think one big example, I think, with say podiatrists are often known for sort of doing prescribing the orthosis, the insoles. And there was a point, probably sort of 5 or 6 years or so ago, maybe a little bit longer, where I was sort of so disillusioned with what we could do, and it almost just seemed to be propping up the feet. There was very limited scope, really. It was just, create an arch support and either wedge it, sort of tip it one way or the other. I'm not getting too technical about it, but it's sort of fairly limited. And then sort of 3D scanning and 3D printing sort of made an appearance. And it almost then completely changed what we could do overnight, as in sort of changing the density across the insole, putting stiffeners here or taking material out of that. And remember, that was sort of a really big turning point for me as well. Just thinking, actually, we can do so much more with this. And then sort of talking to some of the companies that were starting to develop these sort of 3D sort of printed orthoses. And with a couple of them, we sort of worked quite closely in trying to sort of develop how we can use that technology then to make a big difference, I think, in the orthotics. So a lot of people initially were just sort of 3D printing traditional sort of orthoses, again, just arch support. But there's so much more you can do. But again, it's that question, and it's like, actually, what can we do? Can we do that? Can we take some material out of there or add some in there? And what's the effect that has on the foot? But I suppose coming from that more functional sort of view as well, it's like, actually, we want to change how people are moving. So we want to understand what they're doing, then how can we change that? And then, right, we need that bit of the foot to be stable, but I need to get movement over here. I'm trying not to get too technical with all of this, but often the foot, it sort of twists one way and then it twists the other. And we may actually want to try and get it to do the other. So we want to be stable there and actually rotate at that point, which is really difficult to do. But we can use 3D printed sort of orthosis to help that process along. So that was a really big thing as well. I think that like a business sort of mindset shift on that.
I was just going to say that's I just know anyone listening into this that is into, like you say, sport, running, anything anything walking, whatever it is, will probably be very curious, thinking of what you're just sharing here. Of like, again, just being a bit more curious about, maybe they might. I mean, I'm not saying they will, but maybe after this episode, they might be like, I'm going to start looking at my feet and how I walk.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, everything fits together, isn't it? And part of I think, again, from a business point of view, actually trying to get that message out there, where sometimes it is quite a complex sort of situation. Everyone thinks, and I suppose the running shoe sort of business has done a lot of this overpronation, which fortunately now we're sort of moving away from. But, everyone, we went into the running shops, they videoed your heel from the back and said, right, you're an overpronator, you need this sort of shoe. And the podiatry sort of profession was stuck in that a lot of the time as well. But now it's like, well, they do 2D video analysis, but we often do the whole body from the side. So again, it's like, understanding like, well, how the heel moves doesn't actually tell me a great deal about where the rest of the body is. And actually, is that important or not? So, but that's the way we're taught. That's the way we look at. But again,
Yeah.
that curiosity, well, what's happening higher up the chain? And the big thing as well, when I sort of work in a clinic in a running shop, Accelerate in Sheffield, and when the minimalist shoes came out, which was about 10, 12 years or so ago, when the Board and Run book, have you read that one or come across that?
I haven't come across that one, no.
Was over there. Yeah, so it really sort of revolution or changed how people thought about running. So it was really a story about like the Mexican Indians who run around with car tires strapped to their feet and they run around for days and don't have any trouble. And Chris Madougal basically went out there, spent some time with them going, actually, this is how we should be running. So get rid of all your big chunky shoes and go back to minimalist and everyone will be fine. So a lot of the companies then started bringing out minimalist shoes, and we found that some people responded really well to this shoe and some people actually really hated it. So again, it was why do some people do that? And again, that curiosity, looking a lot more at running form. So from a business point of view, it sort of really opened up a whole new area that we could work in. So rather than going, right, we need to get support in there, it's actually, well, maybe some people are going to respond if we take the support away. So all of a sudden, you've sort of got another whole facet to the business, which came about by being curious, looking at, actually get some people in these shoes. Some people just heavily heel striked, and you could see the body was like, and some people, you put them in that shoe, they went into a midfoot, forefoot strike, and actually their running form just changed immediately without doing anything at all, apart from taking all the support out. So you start looking there and you start looking, okay, well, what's good running form? How do we do that? How do we analyze it? Let's get away from this rear foot, look at just that position of the foot. Actually, what we need to look at is where the foot's hitting the floor. What's the leg position? What's the body position? Then it starts thinking, well, actually, how does that fit what the physio is saying about core stability? How stable do we need to be? Do we need to be dynamically stable? And then that takes you down that yoga, Pilates sort of route. So all you can see where my brain sort of goes.
Yeah. I can, and just to digress on that though, it's good because obviously you're super passionate about it. You know, you've now obviously come away from this, like what you were saying about being in this area where maybe you wasn't expressing your passion as much. Maybe it dimmed your light of like, I've got this idea, I've got that idea, and this is a common theme with a lot of people that are probably listening to this as well. Probably they feel like, yeah, you know what, I have got. Like you're sharing a lot of your ambitions, the way things work. You're not just looking at one thing, you're looking at multiple things. You're looking at different ways of doing things, different ways, you know. And I think there's a lot of people probably going, I've got this idea, I've got this thing that I want to do, but they're going, oh, I'm a bit too scared or I don't know. So I think for me, I would love to know, and this would be, I think, something that you maybe recall, and it might be a bit of a light bulb moment. It might be just something, I didn't think of it like that at the time. When you made that shift from being, I guess it was that Accelerate Sheffield, right? Or like employment to then setting up your own clinic in Hathersage. What brought you to make that decision that I'm now going to leave employment to set up my own business?
Yeah, I was sort of self-employed in there, but yeah, no, I know what you mean with that. It's making that shift into doing it. And I think then it just gives you that freedom, or you want to have that ability to be able to pursue those things for yourself, really, rather than, when you're working for other people, right? Partly of it is a financial thing, but you think, well, actually, I'm giving half or a certain amount of what I earn to someone else because it's their clinic and they're doing that. And you think, well, can I do this myself, or am I in that position to do it? So I think there's an element of being your own boss actually is really interesting as well, to give you that freedom to pursue a lot of these things. But yeah, I suppose and I sort of had that vision, I think, which is where now we've got the clinic in Chesterfield and just opened up this new room, which I know we sort of talked about, with this room that was available, and sort of spoke to the landlord, and I've seen it been empty for a while. I said, look, can I have this for 12 months if we don't do anything? I really want to set up this sort of movement running clinic, so I need a really big space to be able to do this, and sort of got the go ahead from that. So all these things I think sort of led to that point. Even back then I had this vision of, let's have this one place, we've got sports massage in there, we're talking to yoga and Pilates sort of teachers, so it's almost all the things that I want to do to bring it now into one centre. So that's been there for a while. And there's certain things that sort of stop you. Yeah, it's like, oh, can I do it? What's financial? I've got to take a bit of a hit in the short term. I've got teenage sort of children now, but during this, we sort of had young children going on that. You're trying to juggle family life and keep money coming in. It's like, well, how big a hit can I take? to do something like that, somebody's got to give. You can't just keep piling more and more stuff on the top, which is sort of what you do for a certain while. When you set up your own business, you work all the time. You don't take holidays, and it's like, actually, something's got to give on this system a little bit. And then being your own boss, having that, you think, actually, I can employ people now to work for me. So that sort of plan is so it gives you that freedom, doesn't it? You're able to expand and follow your dreams a little bit. But yeah, it's a big step. It's definitely risk, isn't it, I suppose? And without was sort of weighed risk, and you think, well, shall I do it? Yeah, there's so many things that hold you back. I think sort of people you're working with, relationships, all that type of thing, it all has an impact. You've got to weigh everything up, balancing one thing against the other. But yeah, young families, that's a big thing. Yeah, keeping the kids, I suppose you want to, have time for them as well. I think as well, I saw so many people, like during part of the, when I'm doing sort of the property work space, sort of sitting, especially to sort of retired men who had, and a lot of them were saying when I got, when I first had kids, like they wish they'd spend more time with their family and their children. And that sort of really had a big impact on me. And then because I was working pretty much for myself at that point, I remember just taking every Tuesday off so I could spend it with the kids as they were growing up and spending that one day a week with them. And my partner, she was still working full time as well. So, and that was sort of really valuable time as well. So I think you've got to weigh everything up. Yeah, you can do that if you're you suppose you can a little bit now, but, it's harder. When you're a boss, it's like just block out a diary and that's it, my day's done sort of thing. So, yeah, whole variety of different reasons and motivations, isn't there, to do it? So you've got to try it and see. And that's the thing as well, being your own boss. It's like, well, let's try it if it doesn't work out, or not that day, or can I do 2 half days or a long day, or it's just that freedom is the bit that I sort of really enjoy about it.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, just to kind of go back on bits that I picked up there. Obviously, you said initially, I think this is just important for people to understand, and obviously you recall on it, is that when you first start out, something has to give, like what you're saying, as in you might be working more hours. Maybe that freedom's not there just yet. It may also lead to stress on the relationship, may lead to stress on the family that you're looking to provide for, because you are switching mindsets. You're becoming a new person in a way, because being your own boss or being a business owner, is very different to having somebody over you kind of telling you what to do, if that makes sense. And there's lots of different things. But then also, you was talking about that you had been around people and having conversations with older guys, and that the biggest regret that they had was that they didn't spend enough time with their kids. So they didn't really have that freedom that they wished they had. I guess, and honestly, the reason I'm sharing it like this is because I can honestly remember exactly the same thing when I worked on cruise ships. I was a young 25-year-old, 24, doing fitness. I was talking to guests from all over the world, and they was generally older, 55, 65, some obviously were like 80 odd. And they all said the same thing, because I had this aspiration I'd share with them that I want to be my own boss. I want this business, I want that. And they said the same thing. The one thing I regret is being on holiday, answering all my emails, and these are people that are self-employed as well. So I understand there's two kind of flips to it, but I think for you with the freedom then, just so we can get clear on that, with you saying that there's that freedom. So for you now then, what has been the biggest positive of you now being your own boss and running 2 clinics, your business, than it was when you was employed by somebody else? What's been the biggest positive change for you in your life?
Yeah, I think just sort of being brave enough to think, actually, I can do this by myself. Initially, when we set up, those 3 of us went in, and I thought, I need other people in together to share that, I suppose, the responsibility of it, isn't it? When you've never done it before, it almost feels a little bit easier to tag along with some other people. It's shared. But actually, in the long run, that didn't work for me at all, because we had very different ideas about what we wanted to do. There was definitely not me and them as such, but the way I wanted the business to go. Initially, when we brought the original clinic in Chesterfield, off the previous owners in there. So I sort of was really quite ambitious and wanted to do it, whereas they were almost sort of playing it too safe. So that sort of developed sort of conflict, and I sort of sat back and just thought, okay, fair enough, let's just carry on with this. But could sort of see the potential problems, which did come to fruition in the end, because we didn't really sort of plan far enough, or didn't have any other diversification. We was doing a lot of NHS work at the time, And going into COVID, a lot of that work was being pulled back into the NHS. So they stopped using a lot of private clinics for surgery, which was a massive income stream for us. So when all that, which is basically why we sort of closed the clinic down, really, we had a massive clinic and it had an operating theatre and 10 rooms, and, we just couldn't sustain, couldn't pay the rent basically on it. So, that was we had to move from those premises. And that move is when I took it on myself. Then after that, I thought, actually, this gives me the opportunity to lose the other people that actually aren't with me on this journey. I think to start, you've got to find your way a little bit. So, maybe I could have done it from my own straight away, but having that sort of ability to work with people a little bit, I don't say it's a bad thing, but I sort of very quickly realised that I needed to do this on my own. But I remember sort of just, why am I doing this? Am I the right person? Shall I do this? And you start listening to people that have been on that same journey, what you talked about earlier on. But eventually you get to that point, it's like, well, actually, I can't carry on what I'm doing. Something's got to change. So, is the new position going to be much better than the old position? Then, yeah, probably. But I think as you get a bit older or you do these things, and you actually, well, there's another way out of it. Something always works out. If you're that sort of person, something will happen, basically. So let's just throw some stuff around and see where we go with it. But does that answer your question? I think just having that freedom and that ability to go, actually, I can do whatever I like, what I want. And it's me that's responsible for that.
Definitely the responsibility aspect, I think you've obviously become an owner of your desires, your goals, whatever you want to create in your life. You've gone at that point when that clinic, that massive income stream got taken off you again. You couldn't control that. And you've decided not to go, oh, well, I can't do it on my own. And I always need somebody to kind of not hold my hand, but I need somebody side by side. You've now been able, and you still work with people, obviously, you've got partnerships and collaborations and stuff. But what I mean is you've dug within yourself to be able to do that on your own. And I think I would love to know from that moment then, when you've now, because obviously you are your own business and stuff like that, what have you learned from taking that on yourself and being responsible and taking that risk?
Well, I think a big sort of mindset shift on that was a couple of things really, but I think the big thing is almost to, I think these quotes come up quite a lot, it's not the action, but it's your reaction that's important. So you can't control what's going on, but how you react to it then is totally in your control as well. So sort of hearing that message quite a lot from sort of other people, and I'm sort of in like a dietary sort of marketing sort of group, sort of business sort of support group. Quite nice. And that sort of message comes across quite a lot from the person that runs that. And it is, and I say this to the kids, I find myself, they're teenagers, as I said on that, but I say this quite a lot. It's not what's going on, it's how you react to it that's important. And to get that message across. So I think that was sort of one big shift on that. And also that, the buck stops with you. You can make as many excuses as possible, but basically when you sort of peel everything back, it's like, it's basically you where the problem. So if things are not quite working out as a business owner in that position, it might be everything else, but it's that sort of reaction and sort of action and reaction type thing. But you're the person that's solely responsible for it, and it's whether you embrace that or you make excuses and you become the victim, you become vulnerable, or actually you sit with it, you accept it, and go, okay, fine, that happened. Why did it happen? You start analysing it. So I suppose the bit I approach patients like I do the business and vice versa. So it's like, well, what's going on here? What's actually the problem? Where do we need to get to sort of rectify all of this? So whether it's someone sitting in front of me that has whatever, the foot pain, and we need to really find out what's going on, because it probably isn't, the foot pain isn't the issue. It could be a whole matter of things above that. The same with the business. Like, well, why is this not working? Where do we go with that? And I think then as a business owner, you've got that ability to do it. And so your own frustrations are caused by your own, I suppose, understanding or motivations. And we're not going to be on top form every day. And I think sitting with that as well. I suppose another big thing with that is learning to be comfortable in that space. It isn't sometimes a happy space to be in as well. But even though it's going to pass. But as long as we've got to get there, for some reason we've got into that point, then how do we find it? How do we get out of it? And looking at all those options as well. But
Well,
yeah, so I know I really just, but I know we sort of talked about being out in nature as well. And I think one big thing that COVID did for me was having that ability to get out and actually just spend time and just to slow everything down. I think that's a really big thing that I've sort of learned over the last few years, is actually to be, I suppose, comfortable in that stillness. We don't have to be going a million miles an hour, but sometimes we do need to just take a step back just to sit there and sort of be in that moment, I suppose, and then to go. So yeah, me going out for a walk with the dog is my sort of, I suppose, pressure release valve, basically, where everything sort of resets. Yeah, I think you come back and things not quite as bleak or as drastic, and we've got somewhere to go. Might not have an answer, but again, it's just creating that bit of space for something.
I'm so glad you shared that, and I didn't take that off you, or at least say something and then your mind got lost and we missed that part, because I think that was a really, really key part there, Colin, what you shared. And obviously I follow you on socials, and once we get to the end, guys, if you do follow Colin, you'll see plenty of sunsets and sunrises and dogs on like rocks and stuff like with views in the background. But no, it's it really is great that you shared the part of slowing down and creating space, because, and the stillness part, or even going that one step further, maybe it's silence, or just hearing the noises, what's out there, and you're silent and you've got no distractions to feel. That's probably what a lot of people are not used to, and maybe it's a bit awkward, but that's allowed you to, again, be curious, be open-minded. And I think there's a lot of links here that's coming from what you're sharing. I think just how you've said about it's not because obviously it's the things you can't control, but it's your reaction to it. I think that reaction and the way that you take responsibility has obviously helped you become this resilient business owner. It's allowed you to be able to create something successful on your own as well. But then it's what you're doing outside and beyond your business that's important then to complement your business. So like, for example, you're having that pressure release time every day, regular. You're not just doing it once a week. That makes you feel so good. And then you actually take that energy and presence into your work. You're more present with maybe your client or a prospective client, because you've taken that time out for yourself. And I think that's actually something that, like a little bit of a pathway that I want to go down. So for you now, outside of work, so obviously you're very into your work. You can tell you're super passionate. You're obviously very, very knowledgeable. What does Colin do outside of work? Who is Colin?
Nothing very exciting. But yeah, a lot of time out in nature. That's been a really big thing over the last few years, definitely. And I think, learning to slow down and appreciate. But I've done loads of running over the years, and a lot of it is fast. And I've done the Strava, looking at your watch, and done the training programs, and sort of not as big a runs as you've done just recently, but that sort of verging onto sort of a day, like weekend 2-day events and sort of little small ultras and that type of stuff. But it's all about sort of beating the time, getting quick, or being sustainable in that way. But now it's about, actually, I don't mind. Sometimes I go out for a walk and I've got a bit of a plan, but sometimes actually we'll just go and wander around the woods and not actually go and climb up Windhill or something. Just sort of going with whatever feels right for that day is really important. And that does then reflect back into, talking to people about running injuries. And a lot of the time I'm just saying to people, you've just got to slow down, give your body a chance. There's nothing particularly damaged here. There's nothing going on, but you just push. And we only, we've got that stress jar, haven't we? And we keep loading into it various bits and pieces. And then we stick on running, Strava, training goals, training plans, and all the rest of it. Sometimes the body's just going, actually, just, give me a bit of a break here. So I think sort of going through that process and finding that myself has been really important as well. And knowing actually it's fine. I'm probably as fit as a running point of view, but definitely healthier than I have been in many, many years. And I'm probably doing less to a certain extent, but less intensity. But I think as we get older as well, we don't need to do that quite high level. We need to put some in there. We do need to get heart rate up, and we do need to get out of breath at times. But I think when we're younger as well, we can sort of deal with it. We brush it off, recover a little bit quicker. So I think it's just factoring all of those things coming together. And you get out with it. Some days we go out and I will go and blast up Windhill or Loose Hill or wherever, and the dog's hanging on to me for a change rather than me trying to follow her up the hill. But you just got to do, I think, what fits right for you that day. and not get, I suppose, too comfortable in that. And occasionally, right, let's get out of our comfort zone a little bit. Let's go and make this a little bit harder. But yeah, I suppose what I do is it's aiming that curious, explore. We're walking along, where does that path go? I haven't been out there before. Or maybe let's just go and see what's happening around that way, and maybe we'll come back. Maybe we'll carry on around that point, and maybe we'll sit up here and watch the sunset rather than getting back, have me tea, whatever. It's just going, I think, with the moment that just feels right. And I think that has become a learned process as well, that it's okay not to be having a little bit of flexibility, I suppose, in those rules. And that's the big thing I see with people training. Go, actually, you need to go a bit slower. You need 6 weeks of just consolidate it, be consistent. And you often see people, you see that panic like spread across their face.
Oh, of course.
My God, what's Strava going to say? What's everyone at the clubs going to say? I'm going to be running whatever, 10-minute miles rather than 8-minute miles or something along those sort of lines. It's fine. It's a short period of time. Your body will thank you for it. And maybe your mind will, and maybe you'll find something different, and there may be something out there. And often now when I'm running, I quite often think how much I've missed rather than sort of what I've gained, because I know I might have missed that spider's web glinting in the sunlight, or the view across, or the shade on the trees, or whatever, something along those lines. And that stuff is really important to me as well. And I think a lot of it, sort of read and listened a lot about awesomeness, and it's those little bits of awe that then build up to like one big bit of awe. So it's not like the big view, but it's maybe all the little bits and pieces that are much more important than actually the big view off the top of the mountain. Probably an analogy for a lot of life stuff there, isn't it? It's not the big view at the end, but actually it's that journey along the way.
It's the climb.
Is important.
No, that's really good stuff that you've shared there, Colin. I can see as well, it may, I know to you, and it may come across in a way like, does people really want to hear this, or this kind of stuff, or the way that you're doing things? Because I know it's a little bit out of probably what you would talk about day to day, or the conversations that you had with people. But what I will say is that this stuff that you share here is all from your experience of life, and it's really important. And I've just taken away from what you've shared, which I think is important to relay, is that it's not always about being rigid. It's not always about being perfect. It's not always about being, it has to be this expectation, high bar, standards being high. Sometimes you got to slow it right down, strip it right back to the core, and just sit. What's going on around you? Listen to that bird tweeting. I'm talking about you obviously walking outside, or somebody could just be hearing a conversation. It's just coming away, like strip it right back to the core, whatever, and then just build it back up again. And then, like what you said, your body will thank you for it. I think you'll thank your entire actions and behaviors for it, because you then become more aware of other things. And I think just from what you said there, I can relate to it, because it's something that, I think I've said this even in my episode. Gosh, when my coach had said to me, Luke, you've got to slow down. You need to slow down. You're speaking at 100 miles an hour. You've got all these ideas, and I'm not saying they're not great, but I think we need to get the tires back on the runway. The tread's gone. It's as though like I was just going, I had no tread on the tires. And I don't know, that stuck with me ever since. And it's interesting hearing your perspective, because that's really helped you. And I think just looking back at it, if we go back, this would be a good kind of frame for you. If we go back to Colin when he was, I don't know, let's say, how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
57.
57 years old and a business owner. When did you actually officially set up on your own, though?
Well, I suppose the Hathersage Clinic was in 2019.
Okay.
But up until then, I'd been always in partnership with other people. So that was the time I did it, first time on my own.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So early 50s. But when did you partner with a couple of other people? What age were you?
That would be 2010, maybe around about that sort of time.
Right. Okay. So that was quite obviously that was like 9 years before. So I guess in your 40s though.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's interesting. So if you could go back, like throughout if you think about your business and your life journey, if you could go back to say your 40-year-old self, because that's when you kind of kicked off this business venture of doing more of your own thing, what would you be saying to Colin by then?
It's easier hindsight. When you are now, it's like, I should have gone off on my own to start with, and what. So, that's sort of the obvious sort of thing with it. But I think it's you can't sort of look back, I think, with any regrets on that stuff. You've got to look back and just think, actually, I've sort of learned from that. And But I suppose the only regret I have, I probably could have speeded that process up a little bit. I think probably sat too long in probably sort of poor relationships, in situations that weren't fulfilling me as I probably knew they should be. So probably just compromised a little bit too much, and probably should have been a little bit braver, a little bit sooner, I suppose, is the only sort of one regret that I would say is probably there. But then you think, well, actually, to speed it up. But I think then maybe I've got to this point because of some of those, well, it would have been because of those experiences that I had at the time as well. So you never know which path or way you're going to go with these things. And if I had settlement, maybe it would have been absolutely brilliant. And I've been sitting here with 5 clinics or 10 clinics rather than 2. And, in a much bigger team of people and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, there's no way of knowing where it would have gone, but you sort of got it. But that would be the only thing I would say is actually, and I think that's probably now why I've sort of moving a little bit quicker because I think time, because those sort of relationships are now not, I suppose, holding me back to a certain extent, but I've got that freedom now, which is just pretty much me down to making all those decisions. So, and I do like that, and I think it's probably just that scared of like, actually, can I do this on my own? And now I know I could have done it on my own, and should have went for it probably a little bit sooner. But again, like I said, you're compromising a little bit of family. You think actually it's a risky thing. Can I do it? It's not just me. And I think if it had been just me, sitting on my own or whatever, then maybe it's a bit more risky. But you got partner, you got family, and actually that's a big factor as well to do. So working with other people in that situation, you think, well, actually I did have a little bit more time and I could spend that time with the family, whereas if it had been me on my own, maybe I would have had to have been more involved in the business and not have that. But who knows? But that'll be the thing. I think just probably go for it. If you think it's there and there's a way, then maybe really, really sort of look closely at doing it a bit sooner.
I mean, no, and that's a fair shout. I mean, look, at the end of the day, there's going to be no regrets. I mean, it's just always a life experience, and again, it's important to share, I guess, what you've learned from it. Where you said there about relationships holding you back, if you're happy to share that, I'm not going into too much context, but when you say held you back, in what way? Was it all about just because the whole perspective of relationships, or was there anything in particular that held you back?
Well, I think when I was in the sort of business, as I sort of said earlier on, that I think my idea and the direction of the business was different to the other people's.
Yeah.
And we sort of went into the business because we all worked there and we had the opportunity to buy it. So it wasn't we were like people all the same vision that said, right, come on, let's get together and do this and let's see what we could do. So it sort of came about because we just happened to be in that place and the offer came on and we thought, well, let's do it. So I suppose sort of looking back on that, and there's quite a few times when I thought, oh, this isn't the right thing for me. I shouldn't have done this. But then you sort of in it, and a couple of times I said, look, I'm getting out of this. And they said, no, let's stay. And so that type of thing. But I think, when your values or your vision don't match up, then that's really important with other people, but also for yourself as well. I think when you're working in a situation that doesn't actually fulfill you, it doesn't match. I think your own values are not being met by what you're doing day to day. It's a classic burnout situation, isn't it? It's like, what am I doing here? What's the point of all of this? But if you're getting home and go, what am I doing this for? And that's when you really got to question. And I've definitely been in that situation a couple of times over the last sort of few years. It's like, it's sort of meaningless with that. So then you either sit and you wallow in it, or you go, okay, what do I need to do to change it? And sometimes then you've got to really delve deep, and sometimes they're hard decisions, hard truths in there as well. Something you're questioning basically what you've been doing. Why have I got in this? How I got into that situation? And then making the most from that. So it's not that it's easy. And sometimes you need help with that. I sort of had a few months of having some therapy stuff with like personal relationships as well. But you sort of think, what do I need to get out of this? What have I got to do? Where do I go with it? Who can help me? I mentioned Steve earlier on. Steve's been great over the last sort of few years to chat to because he's done brilliantly.
Yeah.
So, we've sort of stayed in touch a little bit more recently, a little bit further. And he always said, look, you really helped me, anything I can do. And he's great. I mean, he gets up on there and he talks, and listening to him speak is so inspirational. It's just brilliant. So having people alongside you that give you that sort of little bit of a kick in the right direction as well is really good. Yeah, big decisions sometimes, and they're hard. and it takes time to get there. Yeah. And it's never easy, those things. So sometimes you got to make the move, and being a bit selfish as well with it. That was a big thing with a lot of these things. Actually, I'm going to upset people. I'm going to hurt people in a way because we'd got into a position where actually breaking that relationship was going to be hurtful to both parties, really, but it had to be done. You get to a tipping point. I think you can sort of put up with it so long, but then you get to that point where it's like, actually now this life isn't serving me, or what I'm doing isn't serving me in a way which is now actually making me, I wouldn't say happy, but it's not fulfilling me. So what's got to change, basically? It's not easy, and yeah, we're sort of coming out of that really in a way, but it's given me then that room, that opportunity. But definitely feels very selfish at times as well when you make those big decisions. You sit back and you go, actually, I'm probably going to be a better person for my kids. We create more space, create more time. I can help people better because and people that are working with me have seen sort of that shift and go, actually, the whole place is a much better environment as well. So yeah, what feels hard sometimes actually, yeah, it's beneficial. Fortunately, it's working out that way.
That's absolutely gold there, by the way, Colin. What you shared, there was a lot to that, and I think there's just a big part that I wanted to share just off the back of, obviously you've been through a lot, which I appreciate you sharing so openly as well. Is that there was big risks, obviously big changes. You said that obviously, I think you was trying to get onto the point that it was quite selfless, the tasks and the changes that you made. Obviously, I know it feels a bit of guilt, maybe a bit of, maybe I'm being a bit selfish. However, what you said there about, but actually was more fulfilled, which generally, if you're more fulfilled, you are kind of a bit happier with the way things are and what you see. And also that you're creating a better environment and you're actually improving results with people that you're around, because if you're thriving, everybody else around you feels that, and then your business thrives as a byproduct. And this is something that I'm quite strong about with this podcast and talking to business owners, is that we can forget about ourselves because we're so worried about what other people are doing and making sure that other people are okay and they're happy and stuff. But in the grand scheme of things, that if we are the business, or that we're the business owner, it's like if we're leaving ourselves at the bottom of the pile, and we are starving ourselves of what we truly want, which is fulfillment and happiness, really, and enjoying our life whilst we've got it, we've got to look after number one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so easy just to overlook that. And I know lots of people have other colleagues, podiatry clinic owners, and it's a big thing that comes up. But often you're still there at, sort of 9, 10 o'clock at night, writing your notes up or something, or, cleaning up the clinic or doing whatever. Yeah, your own needs is sometimes right down the bottom of the list. And actually just try and reverse that is a big thing. And you do feel guilt for doing it, or, putting on to people, asking for help. It's all a bit of a learned process. Definitely.
Yeah, it's good. And so now for you then, I just want to ask this, because obviously you've been through a lot, obviously personally and professionally, with setting up, even 2 clinics, which is fantastic. What's next for you?
Well, yeah, one thing I suppose you sort of touched on a little bit, we've got to have this period of consolidation now, basically. Yeah, we've made the big changes. We've got to get it to work. That period, what we talk about with runners, as we mentioned there, sometimes you've got to back off such, but you've got to get consistency into this and actually just start building now. We've got some great new tech that we've just sort of brought in. So we've got pressure mats, we've got little gyroscopes. We've done the camera. We're looking at maybe introducing 3D printing into the clinic, actually doing the printing there in itself. So there's a lot of big changes have happened quite quickly, and now we actually just need to get all of this work in, get the message out there, the sort of work that we're doing, how we can help people, because it is pretty unique, the sort of service that we have. We've got a new sports massage therapist in, so we're talking to the yoga, the Pilates teachers. So really trying to build that very holistic with nutritionalists. Actually, we've just been chatting to somebody locally who's sort of doing food intolerance testing. And the other big thing is the breath work that we're trying to do. So yeah, just trying to, I suppose, bring all those factors together, consolidate it all, and sort of let's just go from there, really. But yeah, I'm always looking. That's the problem. It's like, no, I'm telling myself, like, I've got to slow down a bit now. It's like, let's get all this working. Let's find out, because there will be little big teething problems with this as well. So we haven't got it, finally, completely set. I think it will change. There will be sort of shifts in this dynamic, but we've got to go with stuff, see what works. Because that thing, there's never a failure, is something that didn't quite work out, and we move on from that. But you've got to explore all these avenues and evaluate it all the time. If it doesn't work, let's try something else. Why doesn't it work? What can we put in there to change it? We may not get it right, or you've got to do something 99 times to get the one thing that actually works, whatever those sort of quotes are, isn't it? So, yeah, it's never a failure. It's always something that wasn't quite right. And maybe we come back to it. It may not be right at that time. The dynamics of the clinic, the people in there, or the direction we're going. It may be that actually that's a little bit further down the line. But yeah, all the things. But I think that's, from my point of view, is just keeping open to it. It's just not getting too close-minded. Just evaluate what's happening, talk to other people. Started doing a little bit more networking myself as well, which has been really, really good, which I've always been a little bit hesitant to do, but actually just going out, listening to other business people, and you realise, actually, I'm not on my own. It's not just me doing this. There's loads of people.
Yeah.
There's a great group that's just been set up in Sheffield and, a few other places around where actually we're trying to get health businesses together, talking to each other, because I think it's quite different to a lot of other businesses as well. So, and like physios and PTs and anyone really that's dealing with people are trying to improve their lives at the moment. I think I see that, especially as I've got older, and the state of the NHS, but how much strain the NHS is under. It's like we've got to take responsibility for our own health, and I see that a lot with people. They're not just prepared to put up with, right, here I am, I'm getting old, this is the natural decline, taking loads of tablets. It's like, we can still be active and healthy into old age, hopefully, and then, we're all going to die happily of a heart attack in our sleep when we're nice and fulfilled, is the ideal dream, isn't it? But
yeah, there is that. I mean, there's even like weight loss jabs coming out left, right, and centre at the minute as well. It's quite shocking what we see. But no, I like the fact that you're in collaboration, and this is something that I'm big on, and I've put it out many, many times, is that I'm open to collaborating with great people and partnering with great people, because I just feel like everybody's got a certain skill set. Everyone's got, like, you've obviously got a big quality, and you've got something that you can bring to the table. And I think if there is people, like you said, the nutritionists, food intolerance testing, all these things, I think doing it as the team, and somebody coming in and having like an all-in-one kind of health visit or whatever it is, it's going to not only save, it's not really going to save their life, because they've obviously taken it, but it's going to create them a better life. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's just understanding, isn't it? It's knowing all these factors. We all fit together. We are holistic beings. We can't ignore the fact that, what we eat or how we move or how we sit, how we spend our day, even how we exercise, is all going to impact on everything else. You can't just look at one thing in isolation. And I think that's when, we come out of college and we go, right, I'm a biomechanics podiatrist, I can do all this. But we've said that, there's a body on that foot, and there's a brain in that body as well. And now there's a gut, that brain gut, all this stuff that's all coming out there. It's all connected. We've got to, some people come in and actually there's not really a foot problem. It is the fact that they're sitting down for 12 hours a day and then trying to go and do half an hour run before the kids go to bed. And that's the issue. It's not actually a foot problem. It's the fact that, they've got to address those areas in their life that's sort of causing the problem, or something along those lines. So, that's where we need other people in. Yeah, that collaboration, knowing who works around you, who thinks the same way. And there's not one way that everybody should be working either. So it's finding out what you want to do, work with other people that work in that same way. And like I said, make those links, do that collaboration, because we can't all do everything. I can't be a nutritionist. I can't be the physio, and I can't be this and I can't be that. But what I can do is direct people into the right people who I know think and work as I do. And everybody's not going to come in and see me and is going to be, happy what I say. I can see that, people come in for one visit and, and they don't want to address all the other bits. They want someone to go in and inject their foot with a steroid to get the pain away type thing. So, which we do as well at clinic, by the way. But it's whatever people want, isn't it? You got to work with them and go, okay, fine, doesn't quite suit what I do, but, go and see these people.
Yeah. But that's good, though. It's good that you've got that transparency. And again, I guess as well with you being your own boss, you kind of can say all those things, do that. You've got that freedom to have the choice, I guess, in certain ways. So obviously you've been through and well, I'd like to say a transformational journey. And I'd just love to know, what has been the most important thing throughout all of this for you, Colin, to get to this point?
Well, I think a big thing that I've sort of learned from it as well is just sort of getting that team of people around as well, which has sort of been really important. And, it's not just me here doing all this work by myself. You bounce ideas off people, you've got friends, instead of some of that personal stuff as well. It's just everyone sort of pulls together on that. And I think from the business point of view as well, a really good clinic manager, really good colleagues, other podiatrists around with a really good sort of group of, I suppose, podiatrists around sort of Sheffield, around this area, where we sort of pull together, we sort of meet up. So yeah, very much sort of building your community around you and what you want to do, and just feeding off that a little bit as well. But yeah, just sort of big thank you out to everyone that's sort of been with me on this journey, really. And we're sort of now building and taking this forward and finding the right people. Some people fall on the way, some people join on and provide a little bit and move on. But yeah, no, it's definitely a team effort. It's not just me sitting here doing all this work.
No, that's brilliant. And I just wanted to spin off a question off the back of that, because I really like that. And I think it might be insightful as well for the audience, especially if they're in a place right now in their life or business where maybe they've, I don't know, hit a bit of a low point, maybe feel a little bit trapped. If you can remember, Colin, when you felt a little bit low, or like you say, you went through this journey and obviously you brought people with you, it was a bit of a team effort. How did you go about like acquiring this support network just when you felt a little bit low? I just wondered how they kind of came into your life and supported you.
Oh, I don't know whether I actively sort of sought people out, but I think we probably spoke a little bit earlier on about this, sort of just being open, not being too closed, isn't it? And maybe somebody comes up with something that's maybe you haven't thought about, or you had that little bit of conversation earlier on. Some people come into you and they sort of ignored, they dismiss it, but then they come back to you for some reason. So I think it's just being open again, really, not being too close-minded. If somebody comes with you and you think, oh, that's a rubbish idea, but then, think about it and go, well, maybe, or we'll do half of it, or it might lead off onto something else, or they might say, oh, I met somebody, along those lines. But yes, I wouldn't say I actively had my plan of a bit of paper and had my top 10 of what I needed from somebody. Yeah, I think I'm probably just a bit more open in that and just seeing who turns up, basically, and seeing whether it's helpful or not. I think you have different people, don't you, in your life, and some people help with this, some people help with that, and you build that little network around. Yeah. No, I don't think I'm very good at properly planning that at that level. It's a bit more by chance, probably.
That's really, really good. So
yeah, definitely,
it's really good. So, Colin, we are actually getting towards the end of the episode, which I think there's been a ridiculous amount of value delivered. Obviously, we can clearly feel and hear from what you've shared today that you are a specialist in what you do, and I think this is going to be a really great question, especially what we've delved into today. And it is a question that I ask every single guest. So you've probably even prepared for this. I don't know, but I'm going to ask it anyway, because it is a question that I ask at the end of every episode. So I'd love to know, Colin, what does mastering your life mean to you?
Yes, I have heard that, and I've completely forgotten about it all till you've just said about it. So I've listened to some of your other podcasts. I think what just springs to mind is just be curious, just explore. If you're not happy, don't settle, basically. There is something out there, some direction, and it may be something completely different. I almost feel as well that I've got another career change in me. I'm not settled in that. I still think I'd love to have a cafe. I would like to go just walking in the woods with people. I don't know. There's something else out there that takes you along this journey that I'm on. I don't feel that this is the end. And I speak to some other friends who about this as well. It's like, whenever we stop being curious, whenever we go, okay, that's it, we're done, that's it, basically. I just almost never want to get to that point. If that makes sense. There's always something new. There's always something to learn, whether it's from a business or a point of view. So I suppose that would be my big thing, is to just be curious and follow those curious paths as well. I do that with the kids. It's like, it's great. You've got the internet now, we're out, and it's like, actually, you get an app on your phone and it's like, what's that flower? What's it mean? Or, what's that cloud or something or other? You just got to be looking and experience everything that's out there, basically. Yeah, be curious. How's that?
I tell you what, that's a great definition and actually summarizes everything we've kind of spoken about today in the theme of the podcast, being curious. I mean, you'd spoken about it probably 30 minutes ago about what kind of created that change for you and allowed you to, I guess, become the person you are today. So no, I really, really love that definition. I've not heard that one before as well. So this is, again, unique to you. That's the most important thing. Nobody, I believe, truly masters their life anyway, but it's a nice gap to kind of go into, because what would that look like? It's a bit of that optimism, that vision that's scary, but that's cool because it brings you out of your comfort zone. But look, last thing from me really, Colin, as we tie up, where can people find you?
Well, the clinic information is corpodtherapies.co.uk. My own Instagram is Corpod Movement. The clinic one is Corpod Therapies, or Podiatry and Therapies. Yeah, that's all on there. I think you'll put these out anyway. They're the three main places anyway on there. Yeah, LinkedIn, but I'm not as busy on there as I probably should be. But yeah, there's the main thing. I think if you want to follow me and see what I do would be, Instagram. And then, you'll see Pip and the sunsets, as you said, and there's the work stuff on there as well, which I do filter it.
No, brilliant. No, this is great. That's what's really cool about these platforms. And look, you can't do everything, so you know that. But thank you for obviously sharing that. I will ensure, like I say, they are in the show notes so people can discover you and connect with you. But final thing from me, Colin, I just want to say thank you for spending this hour with me, and it's been a great episode.
Thanks very much. Yeah, thanks for having me. Quite enjoyed it. Cheers, Luke.
Thank you so much for tuning in on this episode. If you found this useful and it's provided value to you, if you don't mind, go onto my channel, tap follow, and keep in the loop for more podcast episodes like this. And if you want to go one step further, please leave us a positive review. It would mean the world to us, and it would help spread the message to many more people. And also, if you want to go that one step further again, tag us on socials, drop us a message. I will always respond. Look forward to seeing you on the next one.